Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. When Nicole walked back through the garden, she heard her mother calling her. When she arrived at the house, she smelled something amazing. As she and her mom discussed what Nicole did all morning, they started talking about the history of the house. And Nicole's mom mentioned a secret room. Nicole and the Box in the Barn, Part 8. Nicole walked into the house and was greeted by the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. Her stomach started grumbling as soon as she smelled it. It was one of her favorite smells, and reminded her of the many times her mother would cook for her in their old house in Montreal. Each night of the week, they would celebrate a different place they had visited in their travels. This smelled like Italian food night. She quickly took off her grass-stained sneakers and walked into the kitchen from the porch. "What are we eating? It smells delicious," she said to her mother, standing over the stove and stirring a pot with a large wooden spoon. "I stopped in at the grocery store and got some hamburger to make a meat sauce for spaghetti. I think it turned out pretty well. Why don't you wash your hands? You can put the garlic bread on the table. You look like you were rolling in the dirt," her mother replied as she looked at Nicole's dusty appearance. "The sauce looks delicious," Nicole said as she washed her hands. "So, how was egg shopping at the drugstore?" "Haha, well, they were out of eggs, so I went to the grocery store instead. I thought we might restart our nightly ritual of having meals from around the world. In all the confusion of our move, I had forgotten the tradition. I also bought a small treat for us later while I was there." "Is the treat eggs?" Nicole asked with a laugh as she sat down at the table with a plate of spaghetti. "I've missed this meat sauce." "No, I got us some ice cream to eat. Perhaps we can enjoy it while watching a show." "So, tell me all about your day. You seem to disappear. I didn't see you outside when I went looking for you." "Yeah, there wasn't much to do in the garden today, so I spent a lot of time exploring different parts of the farm. It's bigger than I thought, and you might have missed me. And there is some history to this old place. Did you know that there was once a smaller barn here?" "Yes, only because when I walked the property before we moved, I saw the remnants of the foundation. It's a shame that such a beautiful farm could turn into such a state of disrepair. Still, I'm sure we can bring it back to something similar to what it was before," her mother replied, surprised at Nicole's interest. "Do you know anything about the history of the farm?" Nicole asked after she slurped some spaghetti into her mouth. "Well, I know it has been in your father's family for generations. He wasn't interested in working on the farm, which is probably partly why it has slipped into disrepair. He always planned to come back, but then he fell ill. It's part of the reason we moved here, not just to start a new life, but also to try and fulfill his dream of bringing his family's homestead back to life," Nicole's mother said quietly. "You have been against moving here from the very beginning." I guess after walking around the farm today and seeing so many different things, I would just like to know more. It's not Montreal, but there is magic here. It would be better if we had Wi-Fi, though," Nicole added with a smirk. "A place like this has lots of stories to tell. If you are interested, there is a room in the attic with all kinds of photos, knickknacks, and books. It might give you some ideas about the farm's history, besides all the stories your father told me. And some of those were pretty crazy." The room itself is pretty fun because it was considered a secret room. You would have a hard time noticing it if you didn't know it was there. A secret room? That sounds mysterious and fun, Nicole said, putting her fork down in interest. Haha, your father told me all kinds of stories. Luckily, none of those stories involved ghosts in the attic, or I would have never moved here. Why don't you run up and have a look for yourself after you finish the food on your plate? And then you can share what you found over a bowl of ice cream, her mother said with a smile. After rinsing her plate, Nicole first went up the creaky stairs to the second floor of their house, and then down the hallway to the attic entrance. She flicked on the light at the bottom of the stairs. There is no way I am going into a dark attic alone. I've watched too many scary movies to fall for that trick, she whispered. She slowly walked up the creaky stairs to the attic. The house was quiet, except for the occasional groan of old wood settling. She could hear her mother's footsteps downstairs, a comforting reminder that she wasn't alone in this adventure. At the top of the stairs, the attic door was already slightly open. Nicole's heart beat faster. This was kind of exciting. She pushed the door fully open, and it squeaked loudly. Nicole laughed. That's the spookiest squeak I have ever heard. Looking inside, she saw a large space filled with dust, boxes, and trunks stacked haphazardly. Cobwebs hung in the corners, and beams of sunlight filtered through small, grimy windows. There is no way I'm cleaning this place, she said out loud. What a mess. Nicole stepped carefully, her bare feet crunching on the wooden floor. She sighed. I should have put on my sneakers. Looking back at where she had already walked, she could see her footprints in the dust and dirt. Walking in further, she moved aside some boxes, looking for anything that might hint at the farm's past. Then she saw it. A small door in the far corner of the attic, left slightly open. Nicole's pulse quickened again. This must be the hidden room her mother mentioned. She approached the door and pushed it open. The door creaked, revealing a small, stuffy room. Inside, she saw old trunks, faded photographs, and a large wooden chest with intricate carvings. The carvings looked similar to the ones on the box she had found in the barn. Nicole stepped inside, walked over to the chest, and traced the carvings with her fingers. It felt warm to the touch, just like the box in the barn. She lifted the lid carefully. Inside there were old letters, maps, and a leather-bound journal. Nicole picked up the journal and opened it. The pages were filled with neat handwriting and sketches of the farm and its surroundings. This might be it, she whispered to herself. Some answers as to what is going on in the garden. Nicole turned the pages of the leather-bound journal, her eyes widening with each new entry. The journal belonged to someone she assumed was her great-grandfather. He had documented everything about the farm. His neat handwriting filled the pages, accompanied by sketches that brought his words to life. One entry described the construction of the original barn, complete with a detailed sketch of its layout. Nicole recognized the sturdy beams and the big doors that still stood today, though now weathered and worn. Another entry detailed the planting of the first crops, with notes on the soil and the best times to plant each type of seed. There were even sketches of the fields, showing how they had changed over the years. But it was the entry about the magical box that truly captured Nicole's attention. Her great-grandfather had written about finding the box in the very same barn, hidden under a pile of hay. He described the carvings, the warm touch, and the way the lock seemed to recognize him, just like her experience. The box is a keeper of secrets, he had written. Its contents are magical and meant to be used wisely. It connects our family to the past and future. Nicole shivered with excitement. She had to share this and all she had experienced with her mother. She couldn't keep it a secret any longer. Carefully, she picked up the journal and a few faded photographs showing the farm in its early days. One photo showed a group of people standing in front of the freshly built barn, smiling proudly. Another showed the garden, lush and full of vegetables, much like the one she had seen in the past. She hurried downstairs, clutching the journal and photos tightly in her hands. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she dried some dishes that she had washed instead of putting them in the dishwasher. "Mom, you won't believe what I found," Nicole exclaimed, almost tripping over her own feet in her excitement. Her mother turned, raising an eyebrow. "What's got you so excited?" Nicole spread the photos and the journal on the kitchen table. "Look, this journal belonged to who I think must be my great-grandfather. He wrote about the farm, the barn, and even a magical box. And look at these photos. This is our farm, but from a long time ago." Her mother wiped her hands on a towel and came over, her eyes widening as she took in the journal and the old photographs. She picked up the journal and began to read, a smile forming across her face. "Nicole, this is really interesting," she said softly. "In all the hustle and bustle of our move, I didn't give but a quick glance at what was in the attic. It seems you have found some family history here. But what is this of a magical box? Now that must be an interesting story." Nicole hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Yes, Mom, it is interesting, but it's not just a story in this journal. I found a box like the one in the attic out in the barn." Her mother looked at her with concern. "You know I don't like you exploring that old barn, but why didn't you tell me what you found sooner?" "I didn't tell you before because I wasn't sure you'd believe me. But the box is there, and it's magical. The journal talks about how it connects our family through time." "Okay, this is all really interesting, and I'd love to learn more about our family's history, but let's slow down and start from the beginning." Nicole took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. "All right, when we first moved here, I was upset and bored, and I went out to explore the barn even though you told me not to. That's when I found this old wooden box. It was hidden under some straw, but the carvings on it were so beautiful that I couldn't help but take a closer look." Her mother nodded, listening intently. Nicole continued, "When I opened the box, I found all sorts of amazing things inside. There was a cape and an old compass, unlike any compass I've seen before. There was also a key and a strange pack of seeds." Her mother's eyes widened with curiosity. "That's quite a discovery, Nicole. But it's not just that the box upstairs in the attic is similar to the one in the barn, or the interesting things I found in both. It's what those objects did. You won't get angry, will you?" "I can't guarantee I won't get angry, Nicole, but I love and care for you. You can tell me anything," her mother said. The seeds in the box were magic. When I planted them, the whole garden transformed overnight. And then I found a door in the far side of the garden that only the key would open. And well, that's when things get really interesting. And that is the end of this part. Good night. Sleep tight.